comments, I'd just like to offer apologies. Our moderator, delayed on matters, so sitting in on his behalf to participate. We are slightly behind schedule, so I'd like to see them get the discussion. I'd like to invite our panelists to the front, starting with Mr. Autism. He is the CEO of Best International. Coming up. Then we have Mr. Marco Raffanetti. He is the CEO of Marco Raffanetti. And last but not least, we have Mr. Ian Blessing, who is the Regional President of Africa for Fortescue Future Industries. Thank you, gentlemen. I will shift over.
Yeah.
Are you doing that?
Yeah.
Got a musical chairs, musical microphone environment. So, gentlemen, good morning. And discussion last months around how do we get projects from a concept design perspective into an funding goal, and a lot of that discussion has been around off-take and the requirements that off-take bring to the project. So, Ursula, to start with you, can you just give us your thoughts around what a off-take mechanism agreement would look like in the context of the nature of large-scale hydrogen projects?
Well, good morning, everybody. It's a very nice little crowd, right? I think we all know each other, almost. But I think the off-take discussion is very actual and very urgent, right? Important. It's a bit funny to discuss this without government people on a panel because I'm running a private company. Okay, it's a state-owned enterprise, but still it's a private company. So I'm not representing the Dutch government in any way, right? Like to make that clear. Yeah, so it's the elephant in the room, right? Everybody is working on their projects. I've been talking with developers in Egypt, in Morocco, in South Africa, in Kazakhstan, in Namibia, and everybody is like, where's the offtake? Huh? Everybody is worried about that Europe is slowing down on its offtake. And I think it's true. It is slowing down on its offtake, right? So we just have to deal with that. That's the one thing. The number two is governments don't buy molecules, right? It's the private sector that buys molecules. So how does an offtake contract look like? Well, we all know how it looks like, right? But I guess you're referring to what can governments do to get it going. So we have been working as Invest International quite closely with the Port of Rotterdam and the Gasunie and our Ministry for Economic Affairs to think these mechanisms through. So what can we do? You saw the election result in the Netherlands last week. That's not going to help. I can tell you that. It's going to be very inward-looking and everything. Spending money outside of the Netherlands, or let alone spending it outside of Europe, is politically very complex, right? Of course, we have the contract for difference mechanism, which makes a lot of sense, right? But it's very costly. And then we have the export insurance guarantee schemes by governments, which I think may have some promise to it, especially because they exist. There are existing mechanisms that they just there. So just to make an example for the Netherlands, they have a ceiling of 10 million yearly, and they only use 5. So there's 5 there. And it's not, Parliament doesn't have to sign off. It's an existing thing, right? So I think that's what we are looking now into. Is how can we use that mechanism, that existing mechanism, to get concessional capital to projects like hydrogen. The nice thing is, under the Dutch law, if you look into the definition of where it's to be used for, it also says not just export, but also strategic, something supply chain or whatever. But you can also link it to imports, which has never been done. It's politically, or it is possible. But we're still in the early stages to think that through how it would work. So that would be one thing that we are thinking about. The other one is a minimum price offtake guarantee, right? Where the government somehow provides that guarantee. The nice thing is a guarantee, so that's cheaper than subsidies. The problem with it is you need to organize it. You probably need to get clearance from Brussels, and before you have it, you may be easily 3 years down the line. Right? And how do you organize it? I think my final point would be we need to do this together with Germany and Belgium and Brussels. So we were already chatting on that because, and also I think that's what Brussels wants us to do. And the North West European demand is by far the most important one. So Berlin, The Hague, and Brussels, they're
Walter, from your side, what is this the way to decide the aim of the future FID? Realize what is it that you'll be needing to be achieved?
So offtake is obviously the economic underpin of climate finance project. So project finance that I've done over 20 years of my career, we always start with offtake and then we look at that. I think hydrogen is the first industry where everybody knows the industry needs to transition to hydrogen. It's a case of, well, we don't take that visibility of what the market needs to look like. And I think what we call the price discovery process needs to take place. And I think that price discovery process is certainly driven by a lot of innovations, such as what US has outlined, or what the European Union is doing. And I think the challenge for the EU particularly is to find a use case and a mechanism that supports simplicity of access into the market. So if you compare what the EU is doing versus what Japan is doing, the Japanese model is a lot simpler to execute, administer, and the use cases are a lot simpler to target. Because I think it's co-firing of ammonia to coal-fired power stations, which are located at both with the simple infrastructure that allow them to add ammonia to the infrastructure, where they can get infrastructure. The cost can afford the high cost of this one is going to be into electricity supply because of the scale of use case where in Europe it's going into industrial applications and therefore the complexity of systems that it's not just about having a electricity mechanism, it's about ensuring that the industry that you're encouraging that demand uptake can is protected from externality and state and competitive requirements. So ultimately we don't control what we do control, and what is ultimately going to drive where hydrogen financing is placed is technology. And Murray is very well placed in terms of to bring the low cost production. Because when it's in the market scale, these projects are very difficult. So and to achieve some organization. And that's why we think when you can centralize planning and government by having resources and plan in a centralized way, I think that's what I think all mechanisms are one thing. I think the financing around these projects is even more critical. So mechanisms that can be deployed to lower the cost of financing will have a greater impact on the delivered price of the product. So for every 1% point increase in weighted average cost of capital, depending on your project globally, it's a 8 to 12% increase in your levelized cost of hydrogen. So mobilizing financing and enhancing through balance sheet support offtake is a lot cheaper to bring down the price of hydrogen than deploying capital. So it's around deploying both mechanisms plus financing mechanisms plus guarantee mechanisms in order to lower costs. So we break our project into financial engineering and engineering engineering. And financial engineering is more critical at driving the cost of delivered products than engineering engineering, which is normally not how these projects are done because of the sensitivity. And I think it's to start thinking about both those, how they interplay together and how they can link into the export credit mechanisms that Joyce was mentioning. So we can afford to pay 5% premium for a wind turbine that's coming from a country that's offering 10% less than the cost of financing. And that's normally not how you procure. Normally you're just procuring on the lowest possible cost. And I think that's where Europe can play a meaningful role by trying to combine all these mechanisms together, because ultimately how we measure success is we don't look at the cost of ammonia production or hydrogen production or electricity, we look at the cost of the delivered product into the final market. And that's what we're optimizing for. And there's many big levers in that supply chain, in that value chain that you can use to leverage in order to drive that cost.
Thanks, Marco. I think that leads into the question for Ed. There's a lot of focus around price. Given that off-take agreements will be spanning 15 years in terms of duration, how does one detail that price? Not fixed, understood when you need to.
Yeah, it's a good question and probably a very commercially sensitive one. So it's this. I just want to reiterate what the first two speakers used to Marcus spoken about. Like, yes, it's the elephant in the room here around offtake, and also really like your terminology there about engineering and financial engineering. The engineering is the easy part, and you can actually technically make whatever you need to make. It's just at what cost, and then that starts to impact how much capital you employ. And then the financial engineering, particularly from a continent point of view, is around the cost of capital, which is where I think we're all going to meet that challenge together. So we've just recently gone through and had to fit, approve for other projects around the world, and there's nothing like the pressure that comes from the boardroom around offtake, and then obviously the pressure that comes on from who you're actually doing the financing with. And the first few projects that globally done are going to be the absolute hardest. And no matter where they are, I think we'll all benefit from. In terms of the offtake and the pricing, it does become critical. And I think this is the challenge we've got for the industry, is that there's a known grade ammonia market that's priced, and you can see it. And you can even add a carbon adjustment to it, and so you know what the customer, the near-end customer, is prepared to pay based on what they know. Our challenge then now is getting particularly from an ammonia point of view, is those LCOAs down to the point where the customer has some confidence in it, and it also meets their demand and what they're actually trying to do with the end product. Because end of the day, the end customer pays. And so when we're looking at those pricing points, some might be quite low, and that's very challenging for us, and we need a lot of technological advances to get there. There's also customers out there, Japanese and others like, who have an opportunity to use it in a different way. And so what we're seeing globally is it depends on where you are. And obviously today's conversation is more about Europe and also with Namibia. And so it becomes quite specific to that region from an off-take point of view. But end of the day, these are all very new projects, and we're having those conversations around project financing with ours and our board and all the key decision makers, and it does get down to price. And so depending on what you can make it for, and then how much you can sell it for, and then the more strength of the off-take. I don't think it's 10, 15 years. These are a lot longer life than particularly project finance. We have that tangible the asset. So, it's a very current type of topic, and one that we're all living and breathing right now as we're taking projects through the field like we have, and we've also got other ones coming up on the continent, where we're having this conversation around the strength of the offtake, what's the customer actually prepared to pay, and then ultimately the finance is the strength of you. It's all about de-risking, and so they all want to de-risk their project financing, so it's how we do that effectively. Price and strength of that price plays a really big part.
Super, thanks. There's been a couple of discussions, most mentioned around production price and the price that the customer is prepared to pay. Key aspects of any take discussion. Where do you see entities like Hydrogen Bank Electric Global involved in these kind of discussions in general? Are they left out and they're brought in on the back of a signed deal, or can they bring value to some of these discussions around the regulatory aspects of the general
Well, it's still a little bit under development, right? So the European Hydrogen Bank they came up with a first option within Europe, right? And they're now starting to work outside of Europe, which is exciting. What I think we need to try to do together is make it clear towards the EU that it would be very helpful to go for regionalized options rather than global options. That's important, right? Because otherwise, if you align, it's not a level playing field. There's a lot of subsidies in places like the United States and Oman and Saudi Arabia. And I'm not sure European taxpayers' money should go there from an diversification perspective, but also from an African development perspective. That last argument is not so important. We're discussing that with the ministries of economic affairs and ministers of finance. They don't care where they get their molecules from. They want to diversify it, but for them, helping Africa is trivial. Right? It's nice to have it, it's not need to have, let's be honest, right? Because it's so costly. But having said that, I mean, Europe set a target of 10 million tons of imports outside of Europe by 2030. No way they're going to reach that target. Right? So, inshallah, that they will start to feel that problem, and then they will need to up their policies to speed it up, to accelerate it, right? Because the target is not for nothing. So in the end, it all depends on Brussels stability, Brussels, alignment on this topic. What I do see within Europe, there's a lot of focus on electrification. That's where most of the money goes for good reasons, I guess. There's a lot of focus on, if I talk for my country, on the North Sea. Billions of investments on making the North Sea a regional hub, connecting it to Scotland and to England and to Denmark, which is all very, very clever. There's a lot of NGO resistance to hydrogen because they see that as a scapegoat for the fossil fuel industry, right? So that whole debate is going on. So making the discussion more international, I think, and giving that message, say guys, it's very important that we get, in the end, we get our molecules from places where they are produced most cheaply, right? Which is in places like Namibia. In the end, we have a very good case. We're not yet there.
Yeah, I think stability plays a big part, both in the EU perspective and also producing countries' perspective. Marco, back to you. Your thoughts on offtake from an agreement perspective? Is that on a country-to-country level, government to government? Is it a government to private sector? Is it private sector to private sector? Is it a combination of all of those together? I mean, where does this go to in terms of mega scale projects? What is that offtake size in relation?
Ultimately, I think to yours point, governments don't buy molecules, they buy the companies in the countries drive decarbonization through their own businesses. So governments are ultimately not the buyer of the molecule. Besides that, energy security is always something that the governments have invested in. So again, if you look at Japan, Japan is a whole agency that is set up to support energy and mineral security because as a nation they do not have any of those critical energy sources. So the Japan needs to be too because they're kind of from also. So these are things that are fundamentally important to So we see a strong geopolitical linkage between states and the private sector around certain industries that are likely to decarbonize. And I think with all economic systems, you should be looking at the return on investment. So yeah, it's a return on capital versus carbon offsets. So how do you place dollars into an economy in order to decarbonize those hard-to-place sectors where you can produce returns? And I think that's where the policies need to start to refine so that they become more targeted around particular industry cases so that the private sector and the government sector can work together with a bespoke set of commercial and government support mechanisms that drive decarbonization. And in a way that is going to not financially prejudice those particular countries, those particular economic activities by those private sectors. And then I think that the big challenge in all of this is obviously Europe, Korea, Japan, they look at this from how do we secure cheap energy, and obviously Namibia is a producing nature, is a producing country, is in the business of trying to maximize value, not to minimize cost. There's a difference between the cost that you produce something and what the market can be to pay. And you've got this awkward position where the market is still finding itself and both parties need to come together. So I think there's a discussion around which is the appropriate economic share of value between the producing nations and the receiving nations. So if you look at some of the challenges in design of sovereign off-take support mechanisms, and they're not set up intentionally in this way, I think it's just because they've been together from one side, only not until the other side is effectively a lot of them are a fixed price contract. Now, I don't think it's the intention of the European government to make money out of the contract difference if pricing suddenly goes up, three or four times higher than what they expected it to be. So there needs to be some mechanism where projects are underpinned by some kind of off-take support, but you don't end up in a position where it becomes unfavorable to one side or the other. And I think that balance is going to be quite tricky to strike. So, as a practical example, if you pay like $100 million in subsidies and the country importing is making $3 billion because the market price is really clearly that's not a sustainable energy supply because you're going to have an unhappy producer country. Same way, if the country's paying out billions for a product price, if the market doesn't reflect that also. So these mechanisms are going to be very, very complicated to define. I think that the challenge that the world has, we did this with renewables. You can start with a small wind turbine park, a small solar park, and you can scale that and you can slowly bleed in this high price as the price gets down. These projects are such that at a scale where to get economies of scale they have to be there. So you have to place a couple of bets on some really big projects in order to push the energy forward so you can come out faster than possible. So it's certainly going to be interesting next few years, that's for sure.
Yeah, it certainly is. Ed, you mentioned that Fortescue, you've gone through the process, you've got a couple of projects through your company. What are some of those kind of key requirements that you see in that process when one's talking around off-takes, lessons learned that come out of it?
Yeah, just listening to what Marcus was saying then is that I think a big part is about actually global leadership because you are really at the front of the curve. So in terms of having the strength of the off-take, bringing, for us, people bringing all your stakeholders along the journey, and I'm not just talking about internal stakeholders, but external stakeholders. I think it's probably been a real key learning for us, and you've got to put a lot of work into it because these are very interesting projects. They have all their own unique challenges depending on where you are, and you just need to bring everyone along that journey. And ultimately, at the end, you've got to have that bold leadership, whether that's at the company level, whether it's at the government level, whether it's at that off-take sort of level. We've all got to do this together, and I think that's when we see our early projects, that's what our early projects are very much about. It's about how you bring that whole group together, because there's risk. There's definitely risk in these first few projects that are getting up and going, and you've got to be very comfortable with that. And so therefore, being open, transparent, bringing people along the journey around what you're doing, and all the things that make up the project. There's many things, outside of just the off-take, it's just there's many things that must come together. So it's how you bring everyone along that journey, which goes for most business cases that we Can I just add a comment to your earlier question around, whether it's government, or government, sorry, similar to what I just said, I think it's all three. Particularly for these early days as we develop, because we need access to good capital, we need technology to work in our favour, we need the courage of off-takers to take, because not everyone's ready for green ammonia, green hydrogen, lots of stuff. There's a lot of things that need to line up. So whilst at the end of the day you might sign a contract between you and company B for the offtake, there's a lot involved around that to make that contract signed, to have the confidence in the project. So sort of similar to what I said on the panel yesterday, this is going to take everyone working together and being very open and transparent about that journey that we're all on. And then we talk about the flywheel. So once you get the flywheel going, that's when it gets better. It's when you're confident around. And then we need scale, right? And we need large scale. And that's the fantastic opportunity for Namibia, is that ability to have that large scale to then get the efficiency that you need to benefit both the country and the
Super, thanks, Ed. Gents, as we wrap up, I think I'll just kind of run one round through again, just very briefly, from your side of perspective, some advice to Namibia as we go forward into a future where off-takes are key to the success of our hydrogen program. What advice would you be willing to put forward to Namibia so we can take that and put that into our plans going forward?
Dear Minister. No, let me be very humble here. I think there is much more advice needed to my own country and to the EU than to the government of Namibia, if I know what. No, but I think you have done well, very, very well. So Namibia is now known within, I'm talking from the EU perspective, right? Is now known as a very stable country, really up there, a front runner, playing this game. So I think it's amazing what has been pulled off, really. And the EU Namibia forum just a few months ago. Wow, right? And personally, 2 years ago, of course I had heard about it in Namibia, I could point it out on the map, but me engaging so deeply with Namibia is also a case in point, right? So, no advice, please go on and stay as stable as you are.
Okay. I'm going to say exactly the same as yours. So when we bid, I had some working experience in Namibia over my career before. And we knew Namibia was a good geography to technically to do these projects. We saw the bold ambition of government. But I'll honestly say that Namibia has surpassed our expectations in terms of how Namibia has leveraged its position on the global stage. Namibia is not just a leader in Africa, it's a leader globally in the space. And ultimately, to the point Ed was making around bold leadership, Namibia has done that. So I would just encourage more of the same. It's going to be a hard journey because creating something incredible and starting a new industry of this scale is hard. But ultimately, we believe that it is in the best interest of humanity to do so, and it can have an enormous impact on Namibia. So we see our role as we always say, as the cornerstone project, the large-scale cornerstone project of which Namibia can launch the larger-scale ambitions around decarbonisation, being a major player in the space. So more of the same, and we look forward to walking the journey with Namibia.
Okay, thanks. Very hard to follow those two because just totally agree 120%. So mine's probably not more to the government. I think it's just to everyone here, and hopefully for those that are online, we've all got a role to play. And so, COP28 is all about climate change, what we can do now, and clear actions coming out of it. And my simple view is that once again we've all got a great role to play. So my challenge is probably not to the minister or to the government, it's just to all of us to make sure we continue to push and push hard. And if we do it together, then we've got a great chance of success. So I look forward to that journey coming in time, and fully agree. Namibia's got such an amazing opportunity in front of it. It really is the world stage, and look forward to being part of that.
Super. Yeah, thank you, Marco. Thank you. Thank you for your insights, your views, direction. I think we certainly will continue this process going forward. I know that stability is good. We'll certainly be pushing this from a perspective. And we'll take those discussions forward to continue on the Brussels, Berlin level as well. So thank you very much to the rest of your morning.